Well, we're gonna continue on with Collective Shout. Just basically, I put it, 700% cooked. Well, now, yeah, it's actually 750%. Let's get right into it.
Over the past couple of weeks, we've been talking a lot about censorship in the video game industry, and specifically the feminist organization Collective Shout. These people have said that they are basically controlling our entertainment and how proud they are of themselves for all of the changes they're getting made, whether it is by Nintendo or Valve or itch.io. And now they have actually doubled down and responded to their actions, claiming full responsibility. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, of course, censorship is a slippery slope, and just because they're claiming that this is really only them targeting rape games and like games with inappropriate adult content, we know that it's not just going to be those types of games that are targeted, and ultimately, we are talking about entertainment made for adults. As long as it's properly rated, adults should be able to consume that type of content, and I know there are a lot of people out there who say they don't really care about these sex simulator games.
Well, if you don't care, then look, in my previous video, I will say this. Regardless if you don't care or not, it's gonna come for you eventually. And regardless whether you support either Palestine or Israel or Russia or Ukraine, it will come for you. Video game may not be your concern, but what happens if Collective Shout suddenly pressure payment processor to censor people who is either pro-Israel, pro-Palestine, pro-Russia, pro-Ukraine? Think about that, folks. I don't believe a single thing, and I'm thinking we won't hear the end of this.
Being removed off of platforms, but one day it will be a product that you care about that will face censorship. And we're seeing a lot of censorship in the world in general right now, but they actually decided to make this official statement saying Steam campaign timeline in response to false claims and misinformation about our campaign. We're setting the record straight, meaning they are being called out for their actions on social media by hundreds of thousands to millions of gamers. I know that people affiliated with this organization have gone after myself, Savvy, Smash JT. Like, they are really furious that they are being called out by content creators and that their name has blown up this much this quickly, because it was the same situation with Sweet Baby Inc., right? Kim Belair said that they basically wanted to operate in the shadows. They wanted some notoriety, but they didn't want that much attention that quickly, because then everybody is always looking at every single thing they're posting on social media, every single game they're announcing. Every single time they make a move, people are criticizing that and bringing it to other gamers' attention.
Well, shocker. Well, seriously, if you people don't say things like, I don't know, if you don't like it, don't buy it, or perhaps in this case, go have a copy with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if you don't give them what you want. What, you think that's not going to fly? Or perhaps you think that's not going to receive backlash or some sort?
Collective Shout wanted more attention because they've been campaigning against games for well over a decade, but I still don't think that they wanted it to blow up to this size this quickly. They said, though, some have asked why we involved payment processors, and others have claimed we are responsible for itch.io removing all NSFW content. You are the reason why this happened. Itch.io had literally said this in their update, that it was because of your campaign that payment processors started making these demands, and they had to de-index all of the adult NSFW content. They said due to a game titled No Mercy, which was temporarily available on itch before being banned back in April, the organization Collective Shout launched a campaign against Steam and itch.io, directing concerns to our payment processors about the nature of certain content found on both platforms. So you can sit here and play stupid and say, oh my gosh, we don't deserve all the backlash for this, but it is your fault.
And Collective Shout, mark my words, it's gonna take one wrong move from any of your employees to end up burying your company for good. What's gonna happen if Collective Shout suddenly censor a game company who has direct ties to either the Russian government or the CCP? I mean, you don't mess around with that. One wrong move, your company is down the drain, buried for good.
We raised our objection to R&I games on Steam for months, and they ignored us for months. We approached payment processors because Steam did not respond to us. So you are admitting that you were so bothered that this company did not listen to you and did not instantly cave to your demands to try to appease you, that you took it a step further and went after their funding source. You decided to take it a step further and go to payment processors because one company would not listen to you lunatics. This is how far these people are willing to go, and that's why I think it's so important we constantly sit here and call them out and criticize them for their actions.
Which is why, you know what, I think I'm going to increase a bit. Collective Shout is actually 800% cool.
Never enough. Let's say No Mercy was removed off of all of these storefronts and No Mercy was removed off of the face of the internet. They would still be attacking other content that is similar because it's never enough. There's always another target to go after. They also said we called on itch to remove R&I games that we argued normalized violence and abuse of women. There are people who complain that there are not enough women or people of color in games, movies, TV shows, entertainment in general, and then when they are portrayed in a negative situation, or it's just not that they're Mary Sue's, they're the strongest in the story, they're not the most good-hearted, kind person in the story, these people also go on to complain. Sometimes art is uncomfortable, and that means that there are going to be men and women in uncomfortable situations, portrayed in ways that might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Well, you know what they say, make a game for everyone, meaning you make a game for no one.
You're supposed to be able to look at it as an adult and see, well, these are fictional characters in fictional worlds, but also to add on to that, okay, you can't always just expect one gender to be portrayed in one single way. Sure, seeing rape on screen can be uncomfortable for a lot of people, but if it's uncomfortable to me, for example, I just sit and think, well, it's fictional, so yeah. Itch made the decision to remove all NSFW content. Our objections were to content that involved sexualized violence and torture. So they're sitting here doubling down saying, yeah, we did ultimately approach the payment processor. So they're almost trying to play stupid saying, well, technically we didn't demand them remove all of this content, but really that's what you were ultimately hoping for. You just don't want to have to kind of admit that part out loud now.
Let me tell you my experience, okay? When I was in preschool, my first mature rated game, which I'm gonna keep bringing this up, okay? Since Collective Shout doesn't get the fucking memo, my family raised me well, you know what? In exchange for that, I got a reward. My first mature rated game, House of the Dead, and I played it on either the arcade or my birth father's office computer, and guess what happens? I wasn't desensitized to violence. My second mature rated game, Resident Evil 4. I believe I was either 12 or 13 years old when I first played it. I wasn't desensitized either. Why is that? I will keep bringing this up every time, whatever topic that is related to Collective Shout.
I've got millions and millions of people that are criticizing your decisions and your organization, but they really are just doubling down saying, I mean, yeah, we did go after the payment processors because Steam ignored us. And now they, of course, are getting absolutely wrecked by gamers. Steam should have kept ignoring them. Now they gave in. These freaks have a lot more power. And as time has gone on, it definitely has seemed more like it is less on Steam, less on itch, less on Nintendo. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, they could have still come out, made a statement, tried to clarify this even more. They could have tried to defend artists' creations. Like, there's just more that Valve and Nintendo and itch could be doing, in my opinion. Extortion / tortious interference. We don't like what you're doing, even though it's legal, so we're going to interfere with your contracts and ability to conduct commerce. How is this not illegal? They should be told to shut up. They are a distraction. The payment processors use them to push their own agenda, and I do agree with this to a certain extent. I do think that even if Collective Shout didn't come into the picture, these payment processors would have still gone after this content, and they still ultimately would have kept trying to control our entertainment. And I do think that part of it is because Collective Shout maybe hasten the process a little bit, but Collective Shout is an organization that does still need to be criticized. We just can't put all of the blame on them at this point. And one thing that infuriates me so much about this entire situation is that this feminist organization, of course, doesn't really care about protecting women and girls, or else they would actually focus on situations that have to do with the real world. They care about making money off of the term woman and off of this gender. They don't care about protecting people because there is no correlation between violence in video games to violence in the real world on a consistent basis. And so they're basically saying, oh, if there's violence against women in video games, that translates to violence against women in the real world, which just isn't true. There's no scientific evidence.
There's none, and it's been debunked every time. Take a look at my country. How come most countries in Asia didn't have the same problem? And again, I will keep bringing this up. I started playing my first mature rated game when I was in preschool, House of the Dead, and my second one, Resident Evil 4. I was about 12 to 13 years old. Both of those games were M-rated games, mature-rated games, meaning I had to be 18 and above. How come I'm not desensitized to violence? Collective Shout, can you answer that? What, you cannot answer that, Collective Shout? Well, it's simple. Because my parents raised me well, similar to what other parents in Malaysia or any Asian country did. And as a result, I get rewarded.
That up. But of course, they're trying to make people afraid, and they're trying to make normie women afraid for their safety because of those mean, toxic gamers. So they're saying by defeating adult content in games, that's going to protect women in real life, which just isn't the case. It's fine if they want to claim it was all them and they should be absolutely dunked on, but they shouldn't have the option to tattle to a payment processor. The card companies shouldn't be able to do these things anyway and also need dunking on. They're all complicit in this, which I totally agree with. And I do think that it is important to point out that by law, financial institutions like Visa and Mastercard must have a hotline for integrity, ethics, and compliant complaints. I know Savvy had posted this thread. The trending concerns that are raised and delivered to the board of directors and become available to customers and shareholders. Since what Visa and MasterCard are doing is unethical, we must report it to these hotlines. Bending the knee to a foreign extremist group that is weaponizing their vague TOS to censor lawfully approved content is unethical and completely displaces the integrity of the system. They are now operating as a moral police. Despite all the content they have wanted censored is legal. You may submit complaints anonymously. Ethics Point does actually protect your identity, from what I can tell, and both Visa and MasterCard use the same site. So this thread will be linked in the description. There are plenty of ways to try to contact them, and hopefully, if enough of us complain, they will end up listening.
If I found the links, I will put it in the description as well. Now, the change.org there is, but for the links of this, you know what, I'll just give Savvy's tweet. I'll put it in the description and also the pinned comment, if I can find it. Collective Shout, mark my words, it's gonna take just one person to have enough money to bury you, and most importantly, to force Visa and MasterCard to stop listening to people like you. I mean, what happens if Collective Shout somehow censored a game company who has ties to either the CCP or the Russian government, or better yet, the King of Malaysia? Think about that, because if Collective Shout censored the wrong person, well, Collective Shout will be buried for good, deep in the ground, and they can never, ever recover. This is more so about the whole enemy of my enemy card. Most journalists are now, yes, the journalists are also complaining that their own games were indeed being censored. Let's say for certain if Collective Shout surrender, what happens after that? Either the journalists, the woke journalists, continue their attack on gamers, or will they stop? Remember, the enemy of my enemy has limitation. I will also leave the link for Savvy's tweet in the description and in the pinned comment. And probably you will get the links to the websites she's mentioning. Remember one thing, how quickly people forget that all it takes to change one course of history is the will of a single man. And that quote, I will keep bringing this up every single time things like this happen. Leave a like and subscribe if you want gaming news, gaming theories, or you just want to see me play games. Visit my first, third, and fourth channel up here or link in the description.